with artist Tori Weyers. And Tori, you're telling me it's hip to be square, because that's what we're starting with today, right? We're starting with squares.
Yes.
And so everything that you've brought with us today, even though it doesn't necessarily look like it, started as a square.
Yes.
Okay.
So we spend a lot of our time drawing on squares and rectangles and painting on squares and rectangles. So sometimes it's fun to just break out of that completely and go a little crazy with your
Break out of
doodling.
the box.
Break out of it. But starting with one. So I really start truly with a square somewhere on my page, and then almost like allowing your hand to take over, you just start to go from there.
So almost like a contour drawing where you don't lift your pen from the page. And I will point out you're using a ballpoint pen, so it's not like you need a fancy supply here.
Correct. So I really feel like this needs some dashy marks.
Does the work just like sort of speak to you and be like, I need dashy marks? Like, how do you know that?
It does. So I'm kind of looking at this and I see all these little lines here, and I'm like, I need some of those lines separated from a squiggle.
Very cool.
Listening to that gut intuition.
Yeah, and sometimes not judging yourself, like why you're doing something. If you feel like doing it, do it. You can always rescue it, change it, do whatever it is later. So one of the things that I think people don't realize about a ballpoint pen is that they're usually waterproof.
Yes, they are waterproof and paint proof and smudge proof, because once they're there, they're there.
It's true, and those chips are usually pretty hardy when you're trying to write on top of paint or do any of that stuff. So I see that it needed more dashy marks.
It did need more dashy marks. And I have some circles in here that are kind of square-like where I started. Now we're gonna add some color. So I have a little mini composition here, but you're kind of like, I don't know what's happening, but color is gonna help bring some of this together.
So why does color help bring it together?
Your eye sees that color and wants to make sense of it and start to put it together like a puzzle. So just by putting color around both of these, it's like, oh, those now go together, and I can see that.
They relate to one another in an interesting way. And how are you picking your colors? Just again, is it listening to your gut?
It is. I thought that I wanted to do some contrast with this one. So I've started with a dark color, and I'm going to add a really bright magenta here.
Now, if somebody's nervous about picking color, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to make your own color scheme so that you have a preset scheme that you know you're going to use, and then you don't have to worry so much about it.
Well, and I think remembering too that working in your sketchbook, you can be free to really explore with color in new ways, because no one has to see it. It can just be
I always
you.
say, like, your sketchbook is the perfect place to make all the mistakes that you ever wanted to make, because you only really learn when you make mistakes. And a sketchbook is such a safe place to do it because, again, like you said, it's just for you. So how many sketchbooks do you have now, Tori?
Oh gosh, I buy them constantly. They're stacked up in my studio. I probably have 150 sketchbooks. Maybe half of them are full.
Wow, because you really work in your sketchbook almost every day. And have you found that a daily practice has really changed you as an artist?
It has. It's kind of helped me listen to that inner monologue of you need dashy marks.
That's true, because again, like when you do things and then they don't like explode or go badly, right? Then that's experience. It's the whole 10,000 hours idea, where if you do something continually over and over, you become an expert.
Yes. It's a lot of fun too, and you can get so much inspiration from your sketchbook and just line and shape and color.
So sketchbook can be art in and of itself, like a finished thing that's it and you're done, but it can also be a jumping off point for other kinds of work.
For sure. Good source of inspiration, a good place to go when you have artist block, and a good place to just create and have fun.
I agree. I love all your little dashy marks that you're creating. Now, you've been using your brush sort of both the very tip of it as well as the fat part of it.
Yeah, I love also to experiment with all the different shapes you can get out of a brush. It does so many things.
That is cool. And just layering that color changes things, and the way that the paint wicks through the water. Now, if we look at some of the other pieces that you brought with us, I can see that there's a lot of white space, which I find really surprising. Can you talk to us a little bit about leaving all that white space?
Yeah, so I think sometimes when you're doodling and really have a focal point becomes the white space. So leaving a place for your eye to rest and allowing it to kind of come to life and almost be an object that is meant to be looked at can be really interesting.
Very cool. I think too often I want to cram every bit of color into every square inch, and leaving some white really does help. This is a fun idea to start with the square. Thank you so much, Tori.